So yeah, that's going to be interesting to follow. But another position, switching to the other side of the ball, that Eric was asked about, which I thought he was surprisingly candid on, and that's the cornerback position. Eric admitted he's concerned about the cornerback, depth after last year's injuries. I think DK's got a good old tweet for us here. DK acknowledged that the team is very concerned about its cornerback depth. And I think it's important that that's in quotes because those are direct words from Eric. There's no hyperbole there. So what was your take on that, Glenn? Because to me, my initial thoughts were like, all right, like I'm concerned. I recognize that there's a need. However, I don't know if I'm very concerned because at the end of the day, if we just stay healthy, we have the horses where like for me at edge, I don't know if we have the horses in the stable, even if we're healthy. So I distinguish them a bit differently in my mind. What's your thought on his comments there?
Yeah, I think that it's obviously, he didn't want to say that he feels great about the first two guys because, they're still recovering from an injury. I think that's one of those knock on wood type things you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But he kind of made it sound like he feels really good about those two guys. But if you look at the list of guys after them, Jimbo, you're talking Kevon Seymour, Kevin Tolliver, Robert Jackson, and Iman Marshall. I mean, that after I read you those names, can you clearly see why he said that he's very concerned about their depth? Because even if both of those, so let's say Humphrey and Peters are healthy, I mean, who do you feel great about as your third guy? I mean, I think you feel, Brandon Stevens showed that he can play some slot, and
right,
and you got some safeties that could drop down and play some slot. Khalil Dorsey maybe can come back and
he
make
seemed slow last year.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so it's like, even if those guys stay healthy in this day and age, it's at least a nickel you're out there.
Yeah.
And so at least you got three corners on the field. And most of the time, a lot of times you'll have four. So I don't feel good about anybody past Peters and Humphrey. And that's if Peters and Humphrey are, healthy all season. So yeah, I feel a little, but let me say this, Jimbo, I don't feel, and this might, I might get a disagreement from you or the fans. I don't think this is a first round issue. I think they addressed the cornerback position later in the draft.
And that's really the question, right? Like that's exactly honestly what I was thinking in my mind when I heard it. I was like, all right, Eric, like I'm concerned as well, but I agree with you. I don't know if it's a first round issue. And I don't know how much more capital Eric can get away with dedicating to one position group, to be honest. Right? Like there might be people with pitchforks and torches and like, dude, if we spend another dollar on the defensive backfield and we have patchwork up front, because what makes the defensive backfield good?
Well,
pressure on the quarterback.
Well, it makes them better. Yeah. No
you know what I mean? So, right.
But,
so, I mean,
we don't have that either.
Right. So, you know what I mean? There's going to be this never ending battle. And to me, this is just my opinion. We've talked about this before. Cornerbacks, Deion Sanders will never exist again, not because the guys aren't as athletic or as good. The rule changes are different. The rule changes are set up to where it's the longest it takes to lose because corners can't win anymore. They just take longer to lose. You know what I'm saying?
Way to look at it, but
like
yeah,
it's just a losing proposition. It's just whoever withholds the longest.
Yeah,
that's kind of the way it goes. So, like, at what point do you say, okay, we've invested, we've thrown the kitchen sink at this. We need to, like you said, let's do something else in the first round, maybe the second round, or something, right? But I realize it's a concern. I don't know if maybe in my mind I'm as concerned about it as other positions.
Well, I think the question is if they decide to. So another thing that came out of it, and I guess we can kind of start talking about that now, even though it's a later bullet, is they talked about the role that the focus on injuries and he mentioned. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, Eric DeCosta said that they have always been conservative when it comes to the injury history of a potential draft pick. They feel that if a guy misses practice and misses games in college, then oftentimes that translates and they do so in the NFL as well. So with that being said, I know a lot of people like Derek Stingley out of LSU, who had the monster freshman season and then had some injury issues in his following years. To me, that crosses him off the board, right? I mean, I guess it doesn't completely cross him, but it certainly knocks his draft stock in the eyes of the Ravens if you have injury concerns. So, like, also, it's not just that they all invested all this money into their corners. They have just signed their safety to a long-term deal. It's not just what they've already invested in there. It's also, is there a guy there who would be worthy of the 14th pick enough to turn in that card? Because I have a feeling that Sauce Gardner is going to be gone, and I think that maybe Stingley, but if he is there, would the Ravens even pull the trigger given his history?
Yeah, that's a great point. After Eric's comments, that might have disqualified him from the list, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting conversation to have. But certainly, like you said, when you read the depth, it makes you.
It's bad.
Yeah,
it's not like last year where we had Tavon, we had Jimmy Smith.
right?
We had some guys you feel really good about after the first two.
Did Jimmy ever officially retire?
No, it's right now. He's still. I have a sneaky feeling he's going to be back. But even if he's back, I mean, what does that even do?
He was
to
a
change
shell
your
of
mind?
himself last year, and the snap count went down drastically. And can he stay healthy?
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, it makes me feel all right. He's probably better than all those other guys.
Yeah, better. But still, at the end of the season, what are you expecting to get out of him in weeks, 16 and on?
Yeah. So I think I agree with you. I think we're in the same place. Like, it's definitely a need first half of the draft, but I don't know if it's a round 1, round 2 type need, right? And I know we're not drafting for need. Eric will say that over and over again. We're drafting for best player available and Ravens type fit, et cetera, et cetera. But we all know that he's taken the most wide receivers, since his time as a GM for a reason. There's a need, right? So
yeah,
it's just about where he takes that.
He'll definitely take a corner in this draft, at least one, no doubt.
Absolutely. Don't
get nervous because I'm here now.